So on Wednesday, cellular network operator Vodacom announced an agreement with U.S. satellite internet provider Starlink. The partnership will enable Vodacom to deliver high-speed internet to millions and expand rural network coverage. So Starlink, which is already operating in 25 African countries, will authorize Vodacom to resell Starlink equipment and services, business services to customers in other parts of Africa while retaining the flexibility to create localized value proposition. IT entrepreneur and founder of BCX, Lenamile Mopatlane, joins us now to give us a bit of an understanding of what all of this means. Thank you so much for your time on the program. So before we get into the merits of the Vodacom-Starlink partnership, just what are the main internet challenges in Africa, and just when we talk about connectivity as a whole in the African continent?
Look, thank you very much for having me. And one of the biggest challenges, obviously, for rural Africa at this scale is obviously connectivity around fiber. So let alone that you fiber, just to lay out fiber, it's a lot easier to lay out fiber in urban areas. But most of our rural areas have limited connectivity. And if you recall, a couple of years ago, our government, Telkom, were meant to spread out connectivity to rural areas. There was a fund that was put together that unfortunately was not a success. And I think with Starlink Vodacom transaction that's on the go, rural connectivity, there's no doubt about it, to be at its best. And more importantly, we'll be able to reach most of rural South Africa.
Yeah, and yeah, no, you can go ahead and continue, because
yeah,
I think
one of the benefits, and obviously the Vodacom Starlink transaction is not going to wait for the BE requirements that ICASA requires for Starlink to operate.
yeah.
Starlink should have been, or should have actually been launched in South Africa in 2022, which did not happen. And unfortunately, what is done is that we're lagging behind as South Africans.
Yeah.
And obviously, our policies are not clear enough for most of these American companies to come in. Starlink had offered what is called BE equivalence, which means that we're willing to invest close to about R500 million in the economy and targeting specifically rural communities and learners. I think as it is, you realize that we're falling behind countries like Rwanda and Kenya in terms of connectivity for rural. And with Starlink Vodacom partnership, that's going to accelerate that. And we're probably going to have that if we are ready by 2026. It looks like the Department of Digital, that's what they've said, that by 2026, the framework will be allowed for ICASA to allow Starlink to operate in South Africa. But I think what Vodacom has done is a smart thing. I think the BE requirements have become quite onerous. And if we look at it, there's always the usual suspects in terms of these BE deals that happens around big telco transactions. It's a question who's going to get what. And I think Starlink have put their foot down. They say, look, we're not interested in the BE. We've got the technology. We know how technology works. It's a global technologies. It's in over 150 countries it operates in. And Africa is a lost. And I think South Africa, with our population, we certainly need connectivity like Starlink to accelerate. Yeah. I mean, some of our home affairs departments do not have connectivity. Some of our police stations don't have connectivity. So clearly, the Starlink Vodacom transaction, hopefully it will make sure people who are running the country that it's important that we actually get the Starlink guy.
Yeah, and I like that you actually just also broken down the business nitty-gritties for us. Now, South Africans would want to know, what is the significance of this deal and how are they impacted, or how will their lives change by having this sort of connectivity in a way?
Look, it's called internet on the go with a satellite technology. For example, you might take something as practical as this. A tourist comes to South Africa, he's got access to Starlink, he can rent out the Starlink kit, be able to go into places where there's least connectivity. You realize Botswana has licensed Starlink. What does that mean? For a lot of people want to come on holidays in a safari, you can stay a bit longer at in a hotel or in a safari purely by having Starlink on the go. So it's actually internet on the go that you can go where it is licensed, of course. In South Africa, it's not yet licensed. But I'm pretty sure there are people already, as we know, that we are probably illegally connected to Starlink purely for their businesses. And it's unfortunate that our policymakers seem to take such a long time to license a technology that could potentially change how South Africans live. and how we connect. And it's actually sad because you look at even township dwellers and rural dwellers, people are no longer interested, for example, in DSTV connectivity. They're more interested in getting streaming for their kids, for their education, to be able to get content. And Starlink would have accelerated that.
All right, maybe if you're able to talk to us about some of the infrastructure that Starlink uses that would make it this shining beacon of hope insofar as making sure that connectivity moves at a fast pace, as you mentioned there.
Look, the technology, which is SpaceX, which is the guys who've actually developed the Starlink technology with Musk and the team. It's actually allowed that rural connectivity, and unfortunately, our telco providers have concentrated on the high density places, the urban areas, because this is where you're gonna get your return. But with Starlink is that it will complement Vodacom's 4G and 5G network that they currently have, and the fiber. And I think more importantly, I think it's a very smart. If you look at where Vodacom operates on the continent, Egypt, Kenya, with Safaricom, for example, in the DRC, the DRC is such a vast country that for you to be able to lay out fiber, it will take you years. So with Starlink, it will be able to accelerate connectivity.
And Mr. Mopatlanyan, let's just talk about, you being a leader in this space as well. For us as a country having to bring in, sort of infrastructure or inventions from other countries, what's stopping us here in the country from actually bringing up just as a groundbreaking infrastructure as well as technology to connect us? Where are we failing?
Look, our policies are quite onerous for it. Look, South Africa is not an easy place for most technology companies to come in. We have rules, of course, around specifically around historically disadvantaged individuals. How do we get that? But historically disadvantaged individuals will only, in my view, be able to succeed if they've got connectivity. Ability for us, I mean, in this day and age, we should be able to have most of our children with iPads or tablets, for example, that they're able to connect anywhere in schools. And also not only for rural South Africa and learners, but if you look at some of the services that government has to deliver, home affairs, licensing departments, specifically health, some of our health facilities with connectivity, there's so much more we can do. And I think we make it a lot harder for ourselves. It's proven technology. There is similar Chinese and European technology similar to Starlink, of course. But I think everybody else looks at South Africa and say, look, if South Africans are Starlink have been taking a view, if they're not interested in our technology, we'll partner with Vodacom, we'll go to other African countries, and they can catch up later. I think that's a view that Starlink has taken.
All right, and also just how do we bridge this gap, and sort of like find a middle ground to ensure that even all of those IT entrepreneurs that come up with ideas are able to be supported sufficiently so in these spaces?
Look, I think it's been a dream, and even previously in the previous dispensation of President Zuma, there was a big connectivity drive to ensure that our citizens have connectivity. Look, and unfortunately, if we are going to move into artificial intelligence and the fourth industrial, when we talk about sort of fourth technology industrial that's coming forward, one of the biggest thing, and you'll see an example will be Rwanda, where connectivity is prime. They treat connectivity and they really do. They really connect. Sorry about that. They actually what Starlink has done, and which is quite interesting. Countries like Rwanda have taken connectivity to another level. They've ensured that citizens have got access to a level of connectivity. And connectivity as good as getting electricity and water. Those are basic rights. The new world is connected at any given time, that we should be able to be connected. And our government seems to think it's a journey. And obviously it's big infrastructure that needs to be deployed. But there has been money being available for over the years to do that. If you look at USASA, for example, which are the guys who are licensed to run mobile operators and telecom operators, there's money that's been set aside for rural connectivity. And that money is available. And with a partnership like Starlink, for example, you could implode connectivity for the country.
All right, I must
It's
thank.
become, and it cannot, connectivity cannot be for those who are privileged and those who've got access. And unfortunately, sometimes it's seen as that, we're trying to get our children to be connected, and you can't run away from it. These kids live on cell phones, they live on mobile, they live on their mobile, they live on their tablets. Content can be delivered for educational benefits through connectivity in rural areas and townships.
Right, connectivity and connectivity for all. I must thank you so much for your time
Yeah.
and insights. That's IT entrepreneur and founder of BCX, Lenamile Mopatlane, joining us now to share his insights. Thank you so much for your time on the program.